Hey, good day my fellow sad and depressed Pro Loss players. Today I'm gonna make you smile maybe a bit more because we're gonna do an amazing strategy, my friends. We're gonna open with Adept with Glaives and we're gonna utilize the beautiful +1 attack glaives that were promised to deal a lot of damage. We're gonna verify today if this is true or if it's fake, but for that we need to open with glaives and +1 attack, but we're not gonna literally open with +1 because that would be too big of a commitment. We're gonna do a round 2 with Immortals and Adepts for an all-in, if you will. We're gonna utilize the fast gateway building method. We're gonna utilize the proxy pylon to warp in more units. We're also gonna abuse the fact that now Ravagers don't destroy force field immediately. So we're gonna get some sentries and we're gonna build adepts with +1 attack. I'm remaking this video that I just made right now because I forgot the forge. And how do you get +1 attack adepts without a forge? Well, you don't. So I'm just redoing it right now. So we're gonna go for a 12 pylon, 14 gate, 15 gas, and then we resume the worker production. I actually would never really cut it, to be fair, and just chrono boost again the moment you've got 50 energy, so we can actually get a bit more workers. That's the way Showtime does it. Actually, I've seen him play this way, and I find it pretty convenient. So you're going to delay your second geyser, but we're only making a single Stargate unit in the form of a Void Ray, so we don't care as much, and I'd rather have some more economy. So at 18, you rally your Nexus down. So at 19 you will be able to make your Nexus, and I will rally my next worker in the gas to make it 3 out of 3, and you will see if you do it this way it's gonna line up very well. 19 Nexus is where it is, because yeah, sadly we don't get to have a 300 mineral Nexus just yet, but maybe the intern will help us out just a little bit. We're gonna go for a core at 19. This probe goes back to work, then we resume the probe production. We're at 20 right now, and then we're gonna go for a pylon. That's the little difference. Usually you would like to get your gas quicker, but if you do, well, you will be a bit supply blocked. You see right now I'm at 21 out of 21, so if I made my gas instead of my pylon, I would have been supply blocked at 21, which is not exactly ideal. So now you can leave your probe over here in patrol. So because the natural of the Zerg is over here, you can see all the units that are coming out of here. You go for an Adept, and we're not going to chrono boost the Adept actually, because why would we? We have all the information that we need as we go for a Stargate. We have all the information that we need. We see all the units that go out of this base. So you only chrono boost your Adept if you have to. For example, 4-6 Zerglings cross the map towards your direction, they beeline towards your base, then fine, chrono boost your Adept. But if your opponent is playing normal, you don't want to waste a chrono boost on your Adept, especially when you didn't block the base, because you're not going to get much damage done. You only get damage done, generally speaking, if you block this base and then you're able to go left or right, make it hard for the Zerg. But in this case, okay, chrono boost your Adept. But right now I'm not planning on crossing the map. I'm planning to play defensive to have the quickest Adept attack I can possibly get. Therefore, I will not chrono boost this Adept. I have a bit more probes, which makes me very happy. So we're gonna open with a Void Ray. You can of course play with Adepts, with an Oracle, but the thing is I want to be able to deal with the scouting from the Zerg, and in order to do so, I don't really want to get a Stalker because it's not as reliable as a Void Ray. I mean, a Void Ray literally flies, so it can actually kill the Overlord. So I'm gonna complete the wall, and now I'm gonna go for a Twilight Council to research glaives, keep making workers, of course. So this Void Ray is going to clean up from the main first, because this is the most exposed area when it comes to Overlords, because if it flies into the main where our Twilight is, then it will know everything, so we want to prevent that. So do a little bit of shift clicking, utilize the minimap like this. 2 extra gates to make it 4. And now we're gonna shade and adapt towards our third. And this Void Ray, sometimes there's an Overlord over here, very common. And we're gonna help defend the third with the Void Ray. You see, you have a complete lap like this, it's very convenient. Then we go for a Nexus, we go for a Pylon, 2 extra workers, we're gonna go for a Robo, so we can actually build some Immortals later for the second part of the push, so we anticipate a little bit. And then this Pylon will finish, and we'll begin the Adept production right now. So you see 2 adepts being made like this. You will have to be extremely generous with the pylons, because if you make probes and you make adepts like this very rapidly, you see it's very supply intensive, so you need to make pylons like your life depends on it. And try to get some workers like that too. So we'll get a couple more over here. I've got a bit more supply here, so I'm gonna get 1 more pylon. So you see I can make quite a bit of adepts this way. Then we go for 2 geyser. I would love to make these geysers faster. We just don't really have the minerals for that, sadly. Okay, now I'm gonna morph all my gateways, just waiting for this one. One last portal booster here. So it's gonna hit pretty fast, as you can see. And I should have exactly enough supply to actually warp in for adepts. There we go. Fill the geysers. Shade and use the shading time to actually pay attention to your macro. So right now we're gonna queue in Immortal. And we're going to get a 4. It's okay if you cut probes a little bit, because we're gonna go for an all-in anyway, but just resume probes once you've got the Immortal started and the 4 started. And you see, at this point my adepts have reached their destination. So imagine there's a 3rd base over here. What you can do is shade towards the main and attack in the opposite direction. Always try to make it hard for Zerg. Make it so that the Zerg kind of has to run after you. Take a second to do probe Immortal rapidly. Right. Grab a probe, just get some pylons. Doesn't have to be perfect, but focus on your macro. You do not want to ruin the 2nd phase of the attack unless you do game-ending damage, of course, but you could also preserve your adepts. That's also a possibility. We're gonna queue +1 attack so that the adepts actually deal extra damage. Gonna queue an Immortal, and we're gonna get some gateways. Right now I've got 400 gas, so I just want to get 4 sentries, make them as fast as possible so I have time to actually gather some energy. And we're gonna build gateways up until we've got 10, because we will be on 3 base economy, so we have the possibility to afford quite a bit of units out of these gateways, so we're gonna make it 10. I'm gonna complete the worker production. I've got 17 here, I'm gonna make it 13 over here. All I need is 3 more workers, that's good enough. I'm gonna make a 3rd Immortal, and I'm gonna boost the +1 on my ground units. Get some of these. And I'm gonna get some pylons, of course. As I'm about to leave, I'm going to get a cannon towards my 3rd to prevent some run-bys and make my life easier. And this worker is going to go toward my opponent to get a pylon, so I can actually reinforce a bit faster before my War Prism even arrives. So we've got 4 Immortals, +1 will be done as we arrive towards our opponent's base. And we can start crossing the map. So we go for a pylon like that. Don't make it too close, right? You don't want your opponent to just find it and destroy your pylon for free, of course. But get it close enough, let's say. Make sure you've got supply. This forge is about to have its research done. I should have chrono boosted this upgrade instead, but you see it's gonna be just about finished. A War Prism is on its way. I'm going to do 1 final big round of units. And you see upgrade complete in 3, 2, 1. It's ready. And now our adepts actually pack a punch. And we can just go and kill our opponent. You can utilize your force fields, of course, like this. And you have a bunch of... Make sure your War Prism gets closer towards your army. You can pick up your units with your War Prism, do some fancy micro. And every time you can warp in more, just go ahead and do it. And this is pretty much it. This push is pretty powerful, so abuse it. My RTS Dojo is a website that I've created with Elaser and Spirit, where you can find tons of different strategies, builds, and tips on how to improve for all 3 races, Zerg, Terran, and Protoss. If you're watching me, you're probably watching Protoss content, so here I've made, for example, how to learn new maps like a pro, and I'm gonna make soon new strategies and builds for the new patch, especially the 8-worker start. So if you want to learn new builds and improve and get some fun in Starcraft 2, my RTS Dojo is where it's at. Alright, now I'm going to show you what it looks like against a proper opponent, not the AI. So I'm just gonna increase the pace in the early game. We don't want to waste too much time. I'm gonna make myself comfortable. So we open, as I said, 12 pylon, 14 gateway. Of course, you chrono boost at the beginning of the game, right, at 6, 7, 8 seconds. And yeah, I mean, you should know that already at this point. 15 gas, we chrono boost again. I mean, you've seen the build order in the first part of the video. So there's a chance, if it's very well executed, that your first adept attack could be actually game ending in some ways. So don't be afraid if that's the case. Once again, you need to be able to understand, can I finish the game, can I deal dramatic damage, or is my opponent ready? In which case you know where to put your attention on one side or the other, because you do not want to ruin your build afterwards. At the end of the day, what finishes the game usually is the immortal attack, not the adept attack. So you kind of want to make sure your macro is tight, especially the immortal production. The gateway should be on time also, especially if you get all in afterwards. So at this point, I'm just scouting around a little bit, looking for a third base. There's no third over here, so I'm just gonna see. I'm gonna shade in one direction so I can see the lavas, I can see how many drones he has, and I walk in the opposite direction. That's a mistake a lot of people do. They just shade in the same direction their adept is going, but no, your adept can go right and the shade can go left, so you can scout 2 locations at once. So this is how you do it. So once again, we're going for Twilight Council. We're gonna complete the wall. I find an Overlord over here. What's good about the Void Ray also is it can stay in all this area over here and start shooting at Zerglings. And there's a good chance the Zerg will miss your adept move out if you do a very good job at pushing the Zerglings away, not only with 2 adepts but also with the Void Ray that basically shoots forever, so you don't really need to burn the energy like you would within the Oracle. So it's actually very good at preventing the information from reaching the brain of your Zerg opponent. Once again, we're just getting some adepts. So in this case, I do a version where I delay my robo a little bit. So the game I showed you before actually I think is better. The one against the AI where I do the robo before I think is better. But feel free to experiment a little bit. So with this one, I hit a bit quicker with my adepts, but not by much. But feel free to do whatever version you think works best for you. At the end of the day, it's a bit of a freestyle kind of build, so feel free to... I mean, it's not exactly freestyle, I'm exaggerating, but you can experiment with it. Don't be afraid to test your own ideas, especially when it's a new patch, you know. Of course, we figure things out maybe a bit quicker than the average Sunday player, but feel free to have your own ideas. It's a game at the end of the day, and you can express your creativity, so make sure to enjoy it and try some new stuff. And we've had, you know, players that were not exactly the best have amazing ideas, so don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. So a bit of a missed opportunity, all the drones are over here, but once again, I'm not trying to kill the guy. I was very scared that I would kill my opponent with the first adept wave, so I went pretty easy, so I could actually demonstrate the build. Didn't want to kill my opponent with the first shade, otherwise I would need to redo a game. That's annoying, so I don't want to go too hard on my opponent. I mean, if it was Cyril or an amazing player, I would have to go hard, no choice, but anyway, I digress. So 4 sentries is what it is, once again, and you see I worked in 4 adepts also, so 4 sentries, 4 adepts, you can always burn your cash. In this version I went for 8 gate, I still believe 10 is better, because you still have a 3 base economy. So you see I will hit a bit later as opposed to what I did in the game before, but still very powerful nonetheless. My opponent has been kept on a pretty small worker count, now only at 61, finally getting some more workers, which means if we delay his economy in the early game, he will not be able to produce as many units as he would like to. So good for us, very good for us. Finally, we're reaching a pretty convenient army size. I'm pushing with 3 immortals. In the previous version I have 4, so I think the one I did before is a bit better, but both works just fine. You can also use the energy recharge to boost one of your sentries, to have maybe an extra force field, that doesn't hurt. And you use a little proxy pylon like this one. So you see I've got a prism coming, but I can attack before the prism is even there because of this proxy pylon that allows me to just reproduce units. So you see I just warp offensively and I put my attention towards my army. I'm gonna need a couple battles, but I don't give a damn. So you see force fields are gonna be quite powerful like this. He decided to actually use his battles on top of my units instead of the force fields. I don't know if it was the right call, but once again the force field would have lasted longer than what they generally do. So as you can see, the adepts actually pack a punch quite a bit, like they actually deal damage to roaches. And then you rewarp whenever possible. Whenever your gateways are available, just make sure you do a big round of units. Once again, I strongly suggest you go for 10 gates and not just 8 like I did in this game. But you see, this push is actually pretty powerful, very effective. very fun to play. And this kind of build actually existed a few years ago. I remember Classic would play some builds like that. Hurricane, for those who remember, Korean Protoss players also used to play these kind of strategies. So this is basically what we have before, but even better because now +1 grants more damage to Adept. So I hope you like this build, I hope you will try it, and let me know in the comments if it worked out for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.